Hello and welcome back to Lunch Break Heroes. Today we're going to be talking about the Spires of Castle Ravenloft. These are the highest areas of Strahd's lair where your characters are going to face gale force winds, slippery slopes, clouds of bats, and some other unwelcome visitors that we've added in. First up, let's talk about Area K47, the Portrait of Strahd. We've removed the trapdoor to Area K31 from this area because if you watched any of our previous videos, you know that we've removed the elevator trap entirely. If you've chosen not to do that in your own game, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and keep the trapdoor here. Next up in this area, we have the Rug of Smothering. Now, your characters are probably entering into this area towards the latter stage of their game. They're fairly high level, 10 or 11 or so. And the Rug of Smothering just isn't a worthy opponent at this point. It's more of a nuisance and a roadblock to your gameplay. I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm saying modify its tactics. The Rug of Smothering is not a brawler. It doesn't have a whole lot of hit points, and it doesn't have much in the way of attack capabilities. But what it can do is grapple your characters. And as such, it's going to try to grapple them and push them towards the nearest staircase. You see, that staircase is its ace in the hole. That rug is going to latch on to the nearest character that it can, and it's going to do its best to shove them down that staircase. Now, 5e doesn't have any rules for falling down staircases. It's got rules for falling, 1d6 every 10 feet of free fall, but nothing for falling down a staircase. So what we've done is we have made up some rules. That's what we do here at Lunch Break Heroes. We make things up. For falling down a staircase, it is 1d4 damage, bludgeoning, for every 10 feet of falling down the stairs. After every 10 feet, you can make a dexterity saving throw, DC 10. On a fail, you continue falling for another 10 feet and take another d4 of damage. Rinse and repeat until you pass your save. Also in this area is the Guardian Portrait, you know, that stately portrait of Strahd that is just staring down at your party, waiting to jump off the wall and smack them in the face. I've always found the Guardian Portrait to be kind of a weird enemy, like a flying painting. It seems a little hokey, and it's not really within the gothic horror atmosphere. I mean, if you want to keep the flying portrait smacking them in the face, go right ahead, be my guest. But I would say turn this into a surveillance object for Strahd. Now, we've all watched episodes of Scooby-Doo. Maybe not all of us. I watched a lot of Scooby-Doo as a kid. I don't know about you. But do you remember the paintings on the wall that had the eyes moving? Well, here's your opportunity to interject that into your own game. Strahd can look out through the eyes of his own painting and see into this area sort of as a closed-circuit television system. Maybe there's other paintings of him throughout the castle that have exactly this same functionality. Once your players figure this out with a DC 10 perception check, they might be on their guard for other paintings and maybe try to take them off the wall or turn them around or destroy them or whatnot. Next up, we have Area K49, the Lounge. This is where your characters interact with Escher, the consort of Strahd. We've expanded him beyond the first name that the module has given him, and we've given him quite a bit of background. We've talked about this in our Cast of Ravenloft video, but in brief, he is an ex-adventurer, much like your party. He was a bard, in fact, that Strahd took a liking to and decided to keep around. He keeps the DOS loot, in fact, inside his crypt. We talked about that in yet another video. When your party interacts with Escher, he's a little unsure about them. He's seen other adventuring parties come and go, his own included, so you aren't terribly impressive. You're nothing special. But if your party can convince him with a DC 13 persuasion check, he's a bit more amenable. He will actually help you out to the extent that he can. Escher cannot raise up arms against Strahd by virtue of his relationship there, but he can offer information. If there are any Fortunes of Ravenloft items within the castle, Escher knows where they're at, and he will tell you where to go and get them. If there are any other pieces of information that your party want about the castle, or perhaps even about Strahd himself, Escher is ready to help them out. One other thing that the module states about this area is that if your party opens the window and forgets to close it for a period of time, then a vampire spawn that's crawling around on the outside of the castle will come and investigate. We've gone ahead and nixed that in favor of a bit of foreshadowing. If any of your party opens the window or just looks through it, they're going to see a bunch of gargoyles arrayed around the rooftop at irregular intervals. If any of your party members has a perception score of 16 or higher, they will notice some of these gargoyles moving. Maybe they're scratching an itch or adjusting or whatnot, but there's definitely some movement going on out there. Next up, we're going to hop over to Area K52, the Smokestack. Now, it's not likely that your party is going to interact with this area much, if at all. I have yet to hear of a party that does it. If your party does interact with the Smokestack, I'd love to hear about it. How common is this? In any case, this Smokestack isn't just a chimney. It is home of several smoke methods. If any of your party gets close to this area or tries to go into the Smokestack, which is a really weird thing to do, by the way, they're going to be assaulted by 1d4 of these smoke methods. In that case, the sounds of combat are actually going to alert several gargoyles that are going to come running from Area K53 to attack your party. Speaking of Area K53, the rooftops, this is a really dangerous area, not only because it is slick and dangerous terrain and your party can literally just fall to their deaths, but because there's all those gargoyles that are here waiting to attack them. If your party enters this area, they are assaulted by 1d4 plus 2 gargoyles. This is not an easy thing for them to handle, especially since there seems to be an almost inexhaustible supply of these gargoyles. Any gargoyles that they take down, basically more just come to take their place. Whenever people aren't looking at the gargoyles, more seem to just materialize in their place, and they join the fray after a few rounds. Let's hop on over to Area K55, the Element Room. This is basically an alchemical workspace. There's a whole bunch of potion components and spell components and beakers and all that sort of stuff around here, and it is woefully underutilized in the module. We've gone ahead and added a bit of interactivity and power to this area for anybody who can succeed on a DC 14 investigation check. Anybody who succeeds finds an extremely rare spell component that they can use to augment one or more spells. These components beef up the spell's effect, basically cranking it up to 11. These components are used up at the end of the spell casting, even if the spell itself says that they're not. You can't be using these more than once, trust me. We've gone ahead and provided you the table of some spell components that they might find here down in the description below. Feel free to add some more of your own, and if you do, let me know what they are. Next up, we have Area K56, the Cauldron Room. This is where we have a whole bunch of witches performing some sort of rite or ceremony around a cauldron, of course. When your party enters into this area, the witches are not immediately hostile. They still turn invisible because, they're not suicidal, but they want to gather some information on these adventurers that are in their domain. They want to relay this information to Strahd to ingratiate themselves and maybe elevate their status a bit. In order to gain this information, the witches do have to kind of reveal themselves. Not visibly, but audibly. They begin to talk to your party. They introduce themselves by name. Now, there are 7 of them, and I can't remember all of their names right now, to be perfectly honest. We have all of these written down in a wonderfully typeset PDF that you can find over on Patreon for just as little as $1. If you do pledge that $1, you can get this guide and all of the other Lunch Break Heroes guides to download and keep forever, and you never have to worry about remembering 7 names of these witches anymore. When they talk to the characters, each witch takes a fragment of the sentence and speaks it aloud. None of them actually completes a full sentence. So they might start off by saying, "Hello, my sweeties." And then another one might continue on, "What are you doing?" And then another one might continue on, "Here in our room." They're really fun to play, and honestly, a little bit difficult to play, but once you get into a rhythm, once you get it right, it is a really cool effect for you to bring to the table. All of these witches are in the process of performing a ritual to reproduce potions. That's right, I said reproduce, not produce. You see, the cauldron is prepared to take any potion and make more of it. If your party can succeed on a DC 11 Arcana check, they can deduce the purpose of this whole setup from the notes and the components and all of that is arrayed around the room. If you take any of your party's potions and pour it into the cauldron, it will produce 1d4 plus 2 potions in turn. Over in Area K58, the bridge, we've added a bit more peril to this crossing here. When your party tries to go over the bridge, 1d4 plus 2 gargoyles crawls out from underneath of it and attacks them. They will try their best to grapple the party and throw them over the edge. Next up, we have Area K59, the High Tower Peak. This is where your party can interact with Piddlewick II, the little clockwork Chucky doll that killed the guy it was modeled after. As written, Piddlewick II was created by a guy named Fritz von Weirg, who is not mentioned anywhere else in the module and has literally nothing to do with anything. Now, I'm a big fan of keeping things tied together and intertextuality and references and all of that, so I went ahead and I changed up Piddlewick II's backstory just a bit. Over in the town of Vallaki, you have the toymaker Gadolf Blinsky. Now, he did not create Piddlewick II. His great-great-grandfather, Mikhail, did. When the Duchess came through looking for a toymaker, she came upon Mikhail, who was famed for his clockwork marvels that had a startling lifelike quality. Piddlewick was the achievement of his career, basically, the apex of his creations. Piddlewick, of course, is lifelike in the fact that he's a murderous little doll, but, you know, not everybody's perfect. If your party befriends Piddlewick II, he will begin to motion to a tag that is sewn into his trousers. The tag is old and faded, but it's still fairly legible. It says, Master Toymaker Mikhail Blinsky. Is no fun, is no Blinsky. This should be plenty of information to point your party back to Vallaki in terms of where Piddlewick II wants to go. If they end up returning the clockwork doll to Gadolf Blinsky, Gadolf is over the moon to have a creation of his great-great-grandfather's in the shop. He doesn't have much in the way of a reward besides 10 gold pieces and a pick of whatever is in his shop. You know, nobody's buying these crummy little toys anyways. However, Piddlewick II is a bit unhappy with this arrangement. He doesn't want to be returned to anybody except his creator, who is long since dead. Within 2d4 days, unfortunately for Gadolf, Piddlewick II smothers him in his sleep. Piddlewick II then goes on to entertain several Vallakians every night in much the same fashion until he is stopped. Last up, we have Area K60, the North Tower Peak. As written, this is basically just Christian Grey's Red Room of Pain. It's a bed in the middle of the room with some leather straps and a bunch of manacles around the walls. It doesn't make a lick of sense. Why is this area up here? Why is a bed here? We're getting rid of all of it. We're doing some major remodeling in this area, and we are replacing it with a stable for Bucephalus. That's right, Strahd's Flying Horse has a stable at the tallest peak of Castle Ravenloft. The perimeter of this area is filled with hay that Cyrus Bellevue brings up to feed Bucephalus. A lot of it is burnt and blackened to a crisp by the flames that come off of the fiend's body, but a lot of it is intact. The fiend actually doesn't really eat the hay, so it just kind of piles up until it gets burnt. Cyrus just brings it up out of habit for caring for the other animals. Arrayed along the northern wall of the area is a bunch of saddles and bridles and other riding tack. It's all of exquisite craftsmanship, being that it belongs to Strahd. It's worth quite a lot of money if your party can actually get it to anywhere that they can sell. They probably will never be able to do that. On the south wall is a set of large oaken double doors that open out into the empty air. Strahd can use these doors to fly Bucephalus in and out, never mind the fact that they can both pass through the walls perfectly fine. When Bucephalus is not confined to his crypt down in Area K84, or being ridden by Strahd, or aiding Strahd in battle, the nightmare can be found in this area. If your parties enter this area, and they are not accompanied by Cyrus or Strahd, Bucephalus is immediately hostile and begins to attack them. Bucephalus is not stupid, however. If he loses anywhere close to half his health, he will use his ethereal stride action to get the hell out of Dodge and will immediately seek out Strahd. That does it for the Spires of Castle Ravenloft. We've only got a few more of these videos, so be sure to stay tuned. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button, hit the bell, and come back here for all of our future videos. We'll see you back here next time.